And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 133. I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. You excited for the All-Star break and a little bit of a bye week? You know, what are you doing for it?
I'm actually going on vacation. I'm going to be in Europe for a couple of days, so be mostly off the grid, which you know what that means. It means that'll probably be the week that David Pastrnak signed. So sorry, but maybe I'm not sorry. Maybe Bruins fans will be grateful that my absence again leads to some very tangible news. So we'll see what happens. But I'm going to enjoy taking a few days off, Evan.
Maybe they'll ask you to go away forever if that happens. So I'd be a little worried. Maybe I'd say, "Oh, Connor, I can't have you back."
I'll be like that meme of Squidward looking through the windows, Patrick and SpongeBob running about. That'll be me.
I tweet that about Torrey Krug every time he comes back to TD Garden watching the Bruins. But it's interesting. Wasn't it a few years ago you were on a plane somewhere and they signed a bunch of people? I forget who or what year that was.
2021 going to Vegas, and I was like, all right, well, it's a bit of a long flight, but it's the off season. What more can happen right now? And then sure enough, what do you know, Evan? But I think that Kevin Miller retired, and then I want to say like 40 minutes later, Brandon Carlo signed an extension like out of nowhere. So again, it's a long flight to Europe, so you're welcome.
Lots could happen. But anyways, speaking of news, it's funny. We always every year, this has been going on since we have been podcasting together. During the trade deadline, we would record an episode and then immediately things change like right after. I forgot about that until Monday when it came out of nowhere. There were no rumors. There was nothing. It was just Bo Horvat to the Islanders for Anthony Beauvillier. What's the guy's the prospect? Aaron
Ratti.
Ratti
name, but he's a Finnish man.
Yes, and then a top prospect, and then a protected first round pick, top 12 protected. And was there a second round pick in there again? I forget.
I think it's just okay. First.
So just that. Pretty high price. That's what, a top 6 player. That's a high end prospect and a first. I don't think the Bruins were ever going to do. I mean, let's transition that to Bruins. What would that be, like DeBrusk or like Zacha?
I feel like people first were mentioning DeBrusk, and I think maybe before this year you could see the parallels. I think Beauvillier's kind of trended downward a little bit as of late, but still a reliable middle 6 guy looking for a fresh start. So you could say it's somewhat similar to Zacha. Sorry, you're moving Zacha, which you might have had to anyway in order to make the money work, which we'll get to, but a first round pick, which again for the Islanders is probably more value there because it's top 12 protected, but it's also like the Islanders aren't even in the playoff picture right now. Like if you do that for the Bruins, you're getting 28th, 29th overall pick with Islanders in the teens. So again, more value for Vancouver in that part of the move. And then Ratti's an interesting guy where I think he's the top prospect for the Islanders. Was at one point considered the number 1 pick in 2021 and then dropped all the way down in the second round. So not really sure what happened there, but still, when you look at what his pedigree is and where he was in the Islanders system, you're probably giving up a very equal player in terms of, are you looking at a Lysell or a Lohrei? So, all right, Zacha first and Lysell or Lohrei. Pretty steep for a guy that, again, we talked about it before. Would the Bruins like to add Horvat? Yeah, sure. Who wouldn't? You can never not go all in, especially when you look at the stakes involved with this year, but trading for him would be a luxury. And I think when you look at what it would take to give up more assets to welcome that kind of financial headache in the offseason where you have to give him a new contract and balance in the books there. And then I think especially when you look at taking guys off the NHL roster with this team, it's like, don't want to mess too much with what you have going on here, especially if it's a guy like Zacha or Frederick, right? Like adding a guy like Horvat is a luxury to your top 6, but you're also subtracting like a everyday player further down the line and creating yet another vacancy down there. So you weigh the good and the bad with a deal like that. But I think if you're the Bruins, you're probably happy that you kind of stood at the wayside and let the Islanders kind of outbid a lot of other teams there, especially teams that you probably would not be happy he went to, like Carolina or Tampa or what have you.
Yeah, again, I think this was kind of the best case scenario for Bruins fans and for the Bruins. I mean, again, because again, how many times have we said this? Where in the top 6 is Horvat going? obviously he's going in the top 6, not trading for Horvat to put him on the third line. Like, you've got enough third line contenders, but again, the cost was going to be huge. Again, you don't want to take guys off the current roster, and you also don't want to sacrifice a lot of the future either. I mean, they do have to stock up. I know it should be all in on this year, but it is important to kind of keep the prospects together. I know we talked about Lysell on Monday, and I stand by that, but that doesn't mean I'm like eager to trade him. But at the same time, he didn't go to the Hurricanes. He didn't go to even the Rangers. He didn't go to the Leafs. He didn't go to the Lightning. Like, none of your big rivals that are going to keep you away from a Stanley Cup in June got him. That's a good thing. Like, and again, we're not Islander. We're not, poke the Islander or something. I don't know what that would be. I was going to say Islanders beat, but this isn't Bruins beat. This is poke the bear. So I don't know what the equivalent for the Islanders would be. Poke the Islander. That'd be interesting. Poke the island, maybe steal the island. Who knows? But again, they gave up a ton. It doesn't really make a lot of sense in terms for them. I think they just kind of wanted to make a big move. So again, I think the Bruins did the right thing here. Stand pat. They don't need a, huge piece up front. They just need depth. They need depth on defense as well. And you hope it doesn't cost you too much. Because I think that's the biggest thing. Going forward. And I mean, again, you have other big fish out there. There's Timo Meier, there's Patrick Kane. Could they go to Toronto or Tampa or Carolina? I would think one of them might, considering the Hurricanes have the money to do it. Like Timo Meier, I would think would be a fit in Carolina. But still, I mean, Horvat's in the midst of a crazy year, goal scoring wise and everything. So I just, again, glad he didn't go to a contender. The Islanders sitting on the outside. Who knows? Maybe the Islanders go on a crazy run. Crazier things have happened.
Or they could also just further dip. Like, that team is so,
average.
Toast, in terms of where they are. That's when I think most people's reaction when Horvat got traded to the Islanders. You're like, huh? What?
I bet Bo Horvat had the same reaction. He's like, why am I going here? Like, what? Yeah. I could go to Carolina. I could go to Boston. I could go to, Toronto. I could go New York Rangers, Long Island. So it is what it is. The game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Bruins, after a 3-game losing streak, come in game before the All-Star break, and they get the win. Big win, too. I mean, I know Austin Matthews wasn't playing, but big win going up there, doing what they did. Especially that third period where A.J. Greer scores that beautiful goal and then decides to fight.
That wasn't great. That was
not the greatest decision.
The part in The Office when Andy has the phone in the ceiling and he loses his mind and punches a hole in the wall and then he goes that was an overreaction. That was AJ Greer fighting Wayne Simmons immediately after scoring a goal. You really shouldn't do that. And I mean, thankfully he was back on the bench later on because you got his bell rung there.
Oh my God.
Wayne Simmons is not a guy I think you want to be scrapped once unless you know what to expect. And based on that punch, I don't think Greer was expecting a hook like that. So
what's funny is it was kind of like he almost blacked out from the goal, and I bet he was sitting at the faceoff dot just so high on life, just yeah, I'll fight anybody. Yeah, what do you want? I can do anything, and then just.
I thought who?
What did I do? Why am I in the penalty box right now? I didn't understand it. It didn't make a lot of sense. Fortunately for the Bruins, I almost want to say the Lightning. The Leafs scored, and then the Bruins rattled off 2 goals, both from Pavel Zacha. Both beautiful. The first one was beautiful. The second one was great work on the forecheck. We'll get to Zacha in a bit, but it's clear the Bruins weren't fretting about that losing streak, but still getting that win before the 10-day break meant something.
Yeah, no, I think it is a nice development for the Bruins. Again, they were saying they weren't fretting over a 3-game losing streak, which again, if it's your first losing streak and it's the last week of January, early February, probably doing okay for yourself. Probably shouldn't be worrying about that. That being said, I think the last thing you want to do if you're the Bruins is go into this All-Star break. You can get away from the game, relax, and be in the midst of a 4-game skid where you also look at Carolina. Last thing you want to do is be like, all right, we're on this record-setting pace. Carolina's what? 6 points, 5 points back of us? That's not exactly, it's like finding out you have to do a huge project at work right as you take a vacation. You're like, all right, well, I'll deal with that later. But then you're hanging out at the beach and you're like, oh shit, I gotta do that project.
Or like in high school, or you'd the teacher would say, "Go enjoy winter break, guys," but we have an essay due when you get back, and it's like,
yeah, or it's like
so much for the break.
Mid-August for summer vacation, you haven't done all your book reports yet. I personally, whenever I started right as the school year ended. That's me.
I stayed at school all summer.
Oh wow, that's awesome! Wow, congratulations, Evan.
I did not go to summer school, guys. Don't worry.
But yeah, I think when you look at just getting back on track, and we'll talk about it, but the guys who did contribute as well, just an encouraging way for the Bruins to get back to their game. You look at the last couple of losses for them; they've had a lot of third period leads slip away. Outscored in all three of them against Tampa, Florida, and Carolina. And the Bruins really kind of controlled that third period after a pretty tight game. So, again, not taking any sweeping declarations off of a game like this, especially with Matthews out, which does hurt Toronto. Samsonov's glove, not great. But yeah. I still think when you look at just the bigger picture and getting back to details and stuff like that, a win like that has to be huge for a team that now can finally take a break, relax, and then hopefully get ready for kind of the final stretch of the regular season here.
It's like what Jack was saying when he when he was reading Samsonov's stats beginning of the game. He said, "Who does he think he is? Linus Ullmark?" And he did have a good save on Pastrnak. Pastrnak would have had a top 10 worthy goal, but Samsonov made a good left pad save. But he mentioned some of the players who have stepped up last night, on Wednesday. Brandon Carlo in that nice bounce back game. He had a tough stretch of games in Carolina and Florida and Tampa, and Pavel Zacha. Looks like the contract made sense there. You look at that first goal of his where he, dangles to the defender, goes around, then just rips an absolute rocket. And he can shoot it. It's funny, like he can't finish when there's an open net, but when there's like a little sliver, when it is a sliver, he just sniper. So, it's good that these guys, again, are, as you kind of mentioned, are getting back to playing a good style of hockey before heading into the break.
Yeah. Carlo, I think, had a really good game. He gets that goal. Again, it's not what he bases his overall contributions for, his offensive game. But I think you look at him, and I think he's been really solid for a majority of this year. I know he has a lot of detractors, but he's been playing really, really good hockey for most of this season, especially coming back from that concussion. Been really good with Hampus Lindholm. Had a pretty big blip, I think, in these three losses where he had quite a few miscues that directly led to goals that, again, comes with the territory for what these
easy to point out.
Yeah, it's very easy to point out, right? But I think for him, getting back on track with a clean game like that against Toronto, added a goal, which helps the guy's confidence is huge. And then, Zacha, after signing that contract, he's pretty much a point-per-game guy. I think he has 10 points in his last 10 games since signing that contract. So, again, that's an issue further down the line in terms of is he a potential top 6 guy when there might be some vacancies down the middle. But I think when you look at just this season, he's looking like a guy that warrants keeping that check line together, right? Like for all this mixing and matching, knowing you have a guy in Zacha who complements Krejci and Pastrnak well, and I think they've gotten even more in sync as they played more and more games. That's huge for Montgomery and the Bruins in terms of, all right, we know we're getting DeBrusk back. We can kind of toggle and see what we can do on those lines. But that second line, we keep those, 3 checks together. Fair to assume they're probably going to generate a good amount of chance, especially when Zacha's finishing plays like that.
Yeah, I don't understand why that Zacha, Krejci Pastrnak line doesn't stay together all the time. Every time they're together, they produce. That feels kind of obvious. And again, you get to have Taylor Hall on the third line. So to me, again, it just goes back to they have depth. They've got freaking depth. And again, when you have, again, on a lot of teams, that Zacha, Krejci Pastrnak line is a top line. And you have that on your second line. So, it's something we've harped on all year in that they have that depth. They have that depth that, again, can beat teams, you can shut down Bergeron and Marchand and, whoever's with hopefully DeBrusk when he comes back, but you gotta prepare yourself for Krejci as well and Coyle. And again, that's why I think that, this isn't obviously the 1920 team wasn't as deep and they also weren't as good. They were President's Trophy winners, but they were never, ever close to this level of dominance. And we always said that whole time, they don't really have the depth. That's why they went out and had to get Kasha and Richie at the deadline, was because they needed a top 6 wing, and they went out and got 2 and neither really fit. That's not going to happen this year. They don't need that at all. As we said, they just need depth, more depth pieces in case of injury. And the key obviously then is just please don't give up everything, Sweeney has it in the past. So there's no real sign that he will this time. The biggest thing of this road trip, though, I must say, Connor, Brad Marchand on Twitter. Don't get in his way. It was going crazy on there.
I think there was one time where he was going on a Twitter heater. And it was right after the Islanders game. You get the things popping up and I go, oh, man. And then there was like a lull, and all of a sudden I got like a notification on my phone that was like, Brad Marchand replied to your tweet. And I'm like, oh shit. Oh no. It was fine. It was fine. It was just normal banter. But when he goes on one of those heaters, you're like, all right, everyone look out. It's like your friend who's been partying and passes out and shows up later to the party. Like, what are you doing here? Oh God.
Get away. He's a zombie.
Yes.
No, it's like you're getting ratioed. You could you could say something completely wrong, isn't true, whatever. Not that he does, but if he did, he could say, the sky is red. And it would get a zillion retweets and likes. You get ratioed into smithereens. And it would be like, go off, King. And whoever said the sky was blue would be sitting there like, damn it. I got nothing. I can't say anything. So he does go on those fun Twitter times. He does. It's always on road trips. He's probably, bored and says,
it's also true. Yeah.
I'm just going to, steamroll some people on Twitter. And he does.
Athletes, they're just like us. Just go on Twitter when they're bored.
They just are it's funny when he was, I have his, notifications on, and because his tweets are always, must read. And when he was doing it the other night, I was 7 in a row. And I'm like, what is going on? What is happening? And he was replying to tweets that he wasn't even tagged in. So it was pretty funny. And it's always funny with him. He is always funny. We will give him that. He is always funny. And he is pretty good on the ice too. So I think that probably helps out quite a bit. Connor, you're on break for a bit, on vacation, but what can the people look forward to when you come back?
Yeah, we'll continue to have you covered every step of the way this Bruins season over at Boston.com. We have recaps, columns, features, all that good stuff over at Boston.com. We also have more content related to everything happening in Boston sports. So whether that's Tom Brady, Patriots, Celtics, Red Sox, all that good stuff, we have you covered every step of the way over at Boston.com. So please read over there. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Tom Brady for fan banner captain. We didn't talk about that at all today.
Neither, and we won't. We will absolutely not. Ever. That is a rough little segment right there.
I jokingly tweeted that out, and people were, I think I got some serious replies like, oh, this has to happen. It's like, no. It could have happened. It didn't happen. It was supposed to happen. It did not happen. And there's no second chance. I also don't think he cares. I don't think he would ever want to, because he didn't want to then. I don't think he'll want to now. Maybe he'll get bored though. Be like texting the Bruins, please. You never know. Maybe that happens. And hopefully the Bruins say
game 5 of the first round against Pittsburgh. And it's like, here's Tom Brady.
People are like, hey, so. Anyways, Connor, go enjoy vacation. We will see you when you get back. Maybe you'll come back with a nice tan. I don't know what the weather is over there. I would imagine it's good now, right?
I think it's a little. It won't be negative 28 like it's going to be on Saturday here in Boston. But I also don't think it's going to be. I'm going to be coming back with needing some SPF or anything like that.
So I don't really know climates in other parts of the world. Yeah, I didn't look up on my Portugal weather before we started this podcast.
I'm going to show up on 85 degrees now. Which, twist my arm. I'll take it.
Yeah, that's not too bad. But anyways, Connor, go have fun. That's Conor Ryan, Evan Marinofsky, Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.